Hi everybody. I felt that as you are proceeding with finished art in your editorial project, you might like to look at this quick tutorial I produced on using vector brushes in Illustrator. So you're welcome to use Photoshop or Illustrator or Procreate in in your projects for this project. But I really think that knowing how to work with vector brushes in Illustrator is kind of a fascinating area. So I jumped right into this tutorial. I actually recorded it a few months ago, and it doesn't have quite the same introduction that I usually have, but it gets right down to it. I'm also going to load some brush sets that you can use in Illustrator into Basecamp. So if you have some time, play with those a little bit and have some fun with these. All right, take care. My properties panel is visible. I have my layers panel. Right now I have a new letter size document that's only one layer, and I do have a libraries panel which I'm not going to use right now, so I'm going to pull it out and get rid of it by clicking the X in the upper left hand corner. What I am going to open up right now under Window is the Brushes panel. The shortcut for that is F5, and that's actually one of those shortcuts you would probably like to learn how to use. So here are my swatches, brushes, and symbols. I'm going to pull out the symbols because we're not going to talk about those right now, although those are a heck of a lot of fun. And I'm going to go ahead and put swatches and brushes. I'm going to drag them up until I see a blue line when I drag them over the properties panel. When I see a blue line and let go, those panels are now nested inside the other ones, and you can set up your workspace any way you want by nesting and pulling out panels that you're not going to use. And then remember, you can save it all as a workspace, as a new workspace, give it a name, and whenever you log into Illustrator, you'll see the name of that new workspace along with the other workspaces, and that'll be your custom workspace. I'm going to start a little differently than I did earlier today. Right now I'm using a mouse, so I'm going to click on the brush tool, and you'll notice that I have a white fill and a black stroke. I'm just going to get rid of that fill for now, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the black stroke, and here's my color panel. I might like to nest that in there too. I'm not going to use the color guide. And I have my color sliders and my color picker. So I'm going to go back to brushes, and I'm just going to go ahead and using my brush draw a line. Now here's something that I didn't show you today that I'd like to show you now. If you double click on the brush tool, you get these paint brush tool options. And for those of you that might have a shaky hand or are not sure about the accuracy or the smoothness of the lines you draw with the brush, especially if you're using a mouse, I want to show you these fidelity settings. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and first of all set them to very accurate. So I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to go use my brush tool again, and I'm going to go and I'm going to make it a little jaggy. But what happens is with the accuracy set all the way, the brush stroke reflects exactly what I did, what I actually rendered. If I set my fidelity up to smooth, then if I draw something a little shaky, Illustrator is going to smooth that out for me. So be aware of that. That works for any of the brushes that you use. You also notice that when I stop using the brush tool, the line ends and I have to start a new one. But if I keep the brush stroke selected, and I click OK, I can actually let go and then start again and keep going, and it's the same brush stroke, so I can keep that connected. So you can take a little bit of a breather. Okay? Well, that's just a little bit of an insight into the settings. Now, as I mentioned earlier today, you can click a brush and then click in the basic brush collection. And here you go. And I'm going to go ahead and pull down the properties panel, and I'm going to change the stroke of this to 2 points, and I can go to 3 points, and if I want it to be a little bit thinner, I can go to a 1/4 point. That's a little hard to see, actually. And I'm going to go back to my brush panel, and I can also try one of these fan brushes. I can change the color of it by going to my color picker or my swatches panel. Change that easily enough. And again, I can play with the other variables such as the thickness. And as I mentioned, the transparency, you can open up the transparency panel. The other thing I wanted to point out again is the brush libraries. So here's the brush panel. Now there's a little brush library icon down in the lower left, which you can click on that and get a drop-down menu. You can also, in the little hamburger menu up here, open brush libraries this way. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the artistic brushes. Let's pull this over a little bit because I think you're missing it off screen. Here's open brush library. I'm going to go to artistic, and I'm going to choose chalk, charcoal, pencil, and I get this new brush library. And if there's any brush that I want to try out, I can just click them. Anytime you click one, it gets added to your basic brush library, or the basic brush panel that now exists inside this document once I save it. Now, another nice feature is the fact that instead of keeping on hitting the library and using the drop-down menu, you can actually cycle through all the brush libraries by hitting the left and right arrows. So this way I can try one of the watercolors. Let's move this over a little bit so we can see it. And there's kind of a splatter pattern, and we're going to go ahead and maybe we can either take it down to a 1/4, or you can even take it down to 0.25, hit the tab key, and it gets very small. Or you can take it all the way up to 7, and you've actually got a strange kind of a pattern that you can use in the background. I'm going to keep going. And as you can see, you can have a lot of fun with these. And don't think of them just as used along strokes in a very thin width, but you should experiment with different ones. Now here's one. I have a red, this one is called, let's see. Okay, I don't have the name of that one. Let's see if I can show the list view. That is Dry Brush 7. Now, again, you can see the brushes in different ways. I'm going to actually hit Command C and then Command F to paste a copy of it right on top. I'm now going to change the color and then reduce the thickness of it. And I actually can get kind of a nice 3D look to it. Now the other thing that I talked about today is just drawing simple strokes with the pen tool, and then applying a random brush to it. And I'm going to keep going through this. These are wonderful. These are great. I love these calligraphic brushes, and this is the one I'm using right now is the Scroll Pen 7. Here's Scroll Pen 2, and every time I click on one it gets added over here, and then I can change the color, and again I can copy and paste in front, and you just never know what you're going to end up with. That's great. I love those. So really try play around with these. I'm going to keep going. These are the watercolor strokes. I'm going to get rid of what I have here. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a square, and then I can hit it with a watercolor stroke, watercolor brush stroke. And again, using the variable of the opacity, the stroke, and I mentioned under transparency you could try different layer modes. I'm going to keep going because I like this. You can even try some of these borders. These are wild. I like that one. Kind of a fan of that one. This is kind of the Brady Bunch pattern. Let's see what it's called. It's called Dashed Circles 1.3. And then again, this is a 4-point stroke. So if I create one, copy and paste in front, that's I'm adding a different color to that one. Okay. I guess that one right now it's going to hold on to its color because that's kind of a preset color. But here I'm adding another stroke on top of it, and then copy, paste in front. Okay, and then I can reduce that in size to 80%. So you can come up with all kinds of things. Now, I have a set of halftone brushes library that I left in Basecamp for you, and I currently have it sitting on my desk. So how do you use that? It's an Adobe file, and I'm going to go ahead and down here I'm going to go to thumbnail view, okay, and I'm going to come back over to my brushes panel, and I'm going to go to open brush library. That gives me all the presets in Illustrator, but at the very bottom is other library. So if you have like a folder with Adobe vector brushes that you've collected, sets of brushes, I would recommend you keep them all in one folder, make a copy of it, and then all you do is go to that folder, and in this case the brush library is sitting on my desktop. Here it is, Halftone Brush Library. I'm going to go ahead and open it, and there it is. It loads right in, and if I click on them I can add the ones I want, and they appear right in the document brush library. So now I can use those. That's pretty cool. Now if I wanted to, right now they're not changing with the tint. In other words, they're not set, so I can double click this. Alright, well, nothing happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out. There's the artwork. And then all I have to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all unused, and I'm going to just delete them for now. I'm going to drag this artwork right into the, I'm going to select it and then choose New Brush. And I'm going to make this should probably be a pattern brush. And I'm going to choose tint. And whenever you make a new brush, choose tint. Click OK. And it does now appear in the document, in your brush panel. Here I made a pattern brush out of it, so this may not give us exactly what we want, but let's see what it does. I may want to make an art brush out of it. Okay, so now I can change the color of it. It also has a nice little swervy feel to it. Basically, it's the same brush repeated over and over again, and that's actually kind of nice. Change the color. Okay. So let's go back, and I'm going to pull this in one more time. And I'm going to make an art brush out of it. Let's see what happens with this. Stretch to fill stroke length. Okay, I'm going to call it Halftone Art Brush. I'm going to choose tint. I'm going to click OK. And now grab the brush tool. I'm going to delete this first. It's kind of in the way right now. Here's my original source art. And then I'm going to go ahead and that's the new art brush, the same artwork that gave me the pattern down here. This has the same, only this time it's, notice this is a pattern brush and this is an art brush, and they're made from the same source. Alright, so I think that's enough for right now. I'm going to ping the link to this. I'm going to try to put this up on my YouTube channel. I'm going to give it to you, and let me know if you'd like more of these, because these may help to kind of fill in the missing link between seeing a demo in class and practicing it yourself. So take care and have a good evening.